This is the Switchboard app. It relates to direct action in the context of humanitarian crises. It's targeted at local organizations, diaspora individuals, and diaspora organizations. And its overall purpose is to provide a space for organizations to request help and for individuals and or other organizations to respond to those requests. Organizations, though, can also proactively offer help, for example, remote working opportunities. It also helps bridge the diaspora generational divide. We all know that the web is the first port of call for young people when it comes to accessing information these days, and particularly apps. And this app provides a platform to showcase diaspora organizations. These organizations are often run by more mature diasporans and, in many cases, lack any credible online presence of their own. So it helps to fill that gap. It also supports the localization agenda by bringing the work and the needs of local and diaspora organizations to the fore. So, just before we get into the demo, I want to speak to one key design tenet. When we were researching and designing the app, time and time again, when we spoke to individuals and organizations, one word came up, and that was trust. For individuals and organizations, an app in this context, humanitarian crises, there's a need for users to be confident that others on the platform are who they purport to be. And we took that seriously, and to that end, we came up with two related features. So for users, we have what we call an endorsement process. And basically what that means is you can register for the app, but before you can access the functionality, you have to be vouched for either by what we call a community leader, somebody well known in the space, or two regular users. And for organizations, we have a verification process. And that means when they sign up, they have to provide some supporting documentation. So in the US, that might be like a 501c certificate, or in the UK, a charity commission registration certificate. And then we take the organizations through an offline vetting process. So that's the background. Let's get into the demo. The scenario is I'm initially going to play the part of a man called Salah. Salah is already registered on the app as an individual. So what I'm going to do is log in, create an organization and a request for help related to the organization. I'm then going to flip and play the part of a woman called Allah. She's going to ask a question related to the request. On a positive response, she's going to apply. Salah's going to accept her, and that will be the demo. So the first thing to do is to log in. So let me put in Salah's email address and password. And we're in. And initially, what you see here are essentially the requests that are in the system. What the app will try to do is, as best as possible, recommend a selection that fit the interests and skills that you've declared on your profile. So the more information you put on the profile, the better the recommendations can be. We've also at the top got in progress and completed, and you can probably guess what those are. So they contain requests that you as an individual are either currently taking part in or have previously taken part in. If we move down to the bottom of the screen, we've got the home screen as we're on now. We've got an area for messaging, we'll come back to that later. An area to sign up to be a community leader, I mentioned that before. That's someone that's well known in the diaspora community or the local community. A place to register an organization, I'll come back to that in a minute. And then finally a profile. And what you're seeing here is what we call an information card. It's like a splash screen that we can insert anywhere in the tool. And what we're doing here is we're sharing some information on the Sudanese crisis. So this is like a snippet from a longer blog post. So if you press the read more, you would be taken to that. This could also be used, say, to feature maybe a video of a experienced diasporan sharing some advice, say, on advocacy or any topic. If I click through its profile, then here you see the profile. Here's Salah, picture, information. But let's go back to the register organization section, because that's what we want to do. We want to create this organization. The organization is called Rebuild Syria. So I need to select a banner, just like when you're putting organization or profile on LinkedIn. I also need a logo, so I've got one of those. So that's that. So like I said, it's called Rebuild Syria. It's a diaspora organization. It's based in London, in the UK, but it's focused on Syria. I also refer to verification, which is for organizations, we ask for supporting documentation when they register. So that's what I've just done there, provide that. Operating language, I would think for an organization like this would be English and Arabic. Members, so you can sign any number of members up to be associated with an organization. I'm just going to put Salah, the character I'm playing, and set him up as the admin, which he is by default anyway. Interests of this organization, whether they relate to construction work, and crisis relief support. And then you'd put in a bio, so you'd have something appropriate, but for the moment I'm just going to put rebuilding Syria. So I press create, and what's happening now is that request has been sent through to the back end of the system, the admin panel, for approval. And you can see it says waiting for approval. So I'm just going to approve that. So if I click away and click back, you can see the tick. So that's now an organization that's registered on the system. So in reality, that would take a much longer period because you'd be doing some of the vetting and that kind of thing. So our second step then is to create this request for help, which is what the app is about. So again, we need a banner. So we're going to look for lorry drivers to take supplies to Damascus. Again, you'd give a much longer description, but for the moment, I'm just going to go with this. Let's say we need them from the beginning of July through to end of August. Focus country, Syria. Location, like I say, we'll go for Damascus. And this is of high importance. Let's say it relates to early recovery and the skills sort of driving. So again, we submit that for approval. What's happening here is an ability to break that one request down into separate, what we call milestones, like smaller steps. We won't do that. We'll just go through. If I click onto request, you can see it's currently pending. Again, if I go into the back end, I will approve that. So now if I flick back, you see that the pending has gone. So now we have logged in, we've created the organization Rebuild Syria, and we've created the request for lorry drivers. Okay, so before I flip to also playing Allah as well as Salah, I want to talk to one other design decision. We made a conscious design decision not to create a social networking app per se when it came to the Switchboard app, but rather to incorporate social features as and when it was a good point. So for example, you can see the ability here to follow an organization. You're also going to see in this next part of the demo, the ability for individuals to chat to organizations, and for individuals when they're signed up to a common request to have a conversation. And we made this decision because we didn't want this to be a general purpose social network. We wanted this to be a space that people that wanted to get involved in direct action related to humanitarian crisis could come and do that. So let's move to the last stage of the demo. So here what's going to happen is I'm also playing the part of Allah. She's a woman and she's seen this request from Rebuild Syria for lorry drivers, and she's got a question. So she's going to send that question through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click into the request, go to the discussion section, and here's the question. She says, do you only work in Damascus? So I'm going to reply and say, no, we also work in Aleppo. And I'll send that back. She will then reply, there we go, thanks. So we'll take it as she's satisfied. She's asked all of the questions that she wants to, and she's got satisfactory answers. So now what she's going to do is she's going to apply. So let's do that. And if I go to the section here she is. So she's applied to take part in this. I'm going to accept her. If I now go back to the request page, I can see one participant, and there she is, Allah. So that wraps up the demo. As you've seen, the Switchboard app directly highlights the needs and work of local organization and diaspora actors. And it's our hope, that young people like Allah, for example, use it to get directly involved in humanitarian crisis response.